You're listening to Tremendous Leadership with Dr. Tracey Jones.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Tremendous Leadership Podcast, Leaders on Leadership, where we pull back the curtain on leadership and talk to leaders from all ages and stages around the world about what it takes to pay the price of leadership. And today I am so excited because we have our guest, Lisa Marie Platske. Let me tell you a little bit about Lisa Marie. She is an award-winning leadership expert in human behavior, and she has received accolades from the United States Small Business Administration and the International Alliance for Women. She's also recognized as one of the top 100 women making a difference in the world. She left her federal law enforcement career after 9/11 to build Upside Thinking Incorporated. She's a member of the Forbes Coaches Council, and she has trained or coached over 100,000 leaders around the globe. Lisa, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today.
I am really excited to be here, Dr. Tracey. This has been something I've been looking forward to. Getting to spend some time with you.
Well, thank you. And I'll tell you what, for our listeners out there, you want to get your notepads out, because I'll tell you what, Lisa has talked to hundreds of thousands of leaders, and as well as her own journey. So I am really excited to hear what you think about the price of leadership, Lisa.
Well, I have been a raving fan of Tremendous's work for what has been decades. And speaking about the price of leadership, I did not realize that leadership had a cost when I first took my journey. I thought that, being the leader, you get to the top and it's where you want to be and you get to be number one. And I did not recognize all of the things that come with that journey that get packed in your backpack.
That's a beautiful way to put it, Lisa. And thank you also. A lot of times our listeners want to know the context of how Lisa found the tremendous universe. And I think she was telling me before we started, her grandparents actually knew our founder, my father, Charlie Tremendous Jones. And she's a PA girl too. That's exciting. All right, Lisa. Well, listen, with that intro, I want to unpack the four tenets, the four costs, as you beautifully put, that leadership has a cost. And my dad talked about that in one of the speeches that he gave, that is probably the speech he gave the most. And that was called The Price of Leadership. And his premise is that if you're going to be doing leadership, true leadership, there's going to be three things that you're going to have to pay the price of. And the first one is loneliness. And we've heard it. I'm sure you've coached many leaders. It's lonely at the top. Why am I the only one out here thinking this? And Lisa, can you unpack what loneliness in leadership, what that looks like? Maybe share a time where you went through it for our listeners out there?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the question. My background is in federal law enforcement. So there was their own loneliness in that journey as I rose through the ranks in supervision, because also of being a woman in law enforcement. And I thought that, especially with being in law enforcement where guys have your back and you're in uniform and you're working together, that there would be this camaraderie that happened when you rose through the ranks. And it wasn't. There was a bit more of, what did you get that I didn't get? What did you have how did you get that? It must have been because you slept with somebody. It must have been because you did something that we didn't see. And so that was incredible. And so you'd think that when I opened my business, I would have remembered some of those things. However, I didn't. I thought, well, great, I'm going to be my own boss, and I'm going to, I get to call the shots, and I get to. And the reality is, opening a business left me feeling many times that I was on this island someplace with this really great idea and purpose, God-given purpose to make a difference in the world. And yet I was had to do it by myself. So it was had a lot more surprises. The word loneliness is not something I would have used, and it's just more surprises on the journey.
How long did that last? And I appreciate your authenticity, because many of our listeners out there are like me and you. We're entrepreneurs, maybe in solopreneurs. We know God put us. We know what we're supposed to be doing, but it's kind of like, where's my Barnabas and my Timothy, where are the resources? So how long did it take you before you started to Joe, and I know it's all in God's timing. I get it. But can you unpack how long that took? Because if somebody's out there dealing with this right now.
Sure. I would say that it's been waves. I've been in business for over 16 years and it's still waves. There's still waves of loneliness. And I have a huge circle of friends and colleagues and peers and mastermind groups and coaches that I could call. And yet there are times when I'm in my office and I could call my assistant, I could call other coaches on my team. And yet I'm going, I can feel the weight of responsibility. And in fact, it'll move me to tears because the why feels so big. And yet I sometimes feel like I'm traveling alone.
Mm-hmm. Well, I really appreciate you saying that. So I'm coming up on year 13. And for our listeners out there, I really appreciate your authenticity, Lisa, because I think there is this thing that, boy, after, 10,000 hours, you really ought to have this dialed in or, and it's like, no, it isn't. My dad would always say that there's the pendulum and you're going to have to walk alone sometimes and you're going to be alone because you made mistakes and have the wrong, it's par for the course. So I really appreciate you sharing that. I would echo that too. Yeah. Yeah. And loneliness,
ebbs and flows, right?
It's ebbs and flows, but you said it, the weight of responsibility. And although you have a great team, there's only two shoulders that falls on. And so I'm all for, we have to remember that as leaders, that there is still that weight. Heavy is the head that wears the crown kind of thing.
Yes, exactly.
All right.
Exactly. And that's the part where I don't know that I truly understood that. I don't know that I really got that. It was just, well, I'm going to go do what it is that I'm called to do. And, we're going to have fun. And it was like, oh, these are, I'm kind of holding, like it's resting on my shoulders. I'm the one that's got that received the scrolls.
I love it. Okay. So loneliness, along with that is weariness. And my dad, he was very pragmatic and very snarky and very funny because he had worked with people. He flunked out of school in the 8th grade. So he was very real. And whenever people would talk about, oh, everybody's great, just let them be great. And then they'll be great. He's like, okay. How many people have you worked with, And so he was always like, hey, weariness, you're going to have people that do more than their fair share. And you're going to have a huge swath of people that do less than their fair share. The old 80-20, 80% of the work is done by 20% of the people. And it's draining for us as leaders. So how do you stay refreshed, replenish, Shabbat? Do you celebrate the Sabbath? How do you stay on point and strong, spiritually, mentally, physically?
I have 7 areas of well-being that I examine and look at every single day. And those 7 areas of well-being are ones where I look to see if there's anything out of balance. So from physical well-being, emotional, intellectual, spiritual, financial, relational, and in my work, it's what do I need? What's missing? And there's a SNAP technique that I use over and over again during the day. And SNAP is stop, notice, ask questions, and then pivot, pray, or pause, pivot, pray.
I love it.
What are you doing there to go? And so this is not something that I do once a day. It's not something that I do 2 times a day. It's not set up on. It's understanding when something is off. And sometimes I'm working on a project and I am committed to it and something's not right. And it could be, I need water. It could be, I just need to be quiet and say a prayer. It could be that there's something that is sort of nudging me in the back of my head around a relationship with a client, a friend, a loved one. And whatever that is, it's going to pull you from whatever you're to do. And because there is such responsibility. So those are my 2, is ensuring that I stay within those 7 areas of well-being, and then also SNAP.
I love that.
Using the SNAP technique.
But I mean, what a great little mental hook and I love that, your soul will let you know if something's not right. When it is well with your soul and you're just,
yes.
And then, when your little spiritual radar or something, or you're like, well, that doesn't compute or something. So thank you. I love that, Lisa. SNAP. That's a great thing. Stop, notice, ask. Awesome. And then what'd you say? Pause, pray,
Pause and pivot.
and pivot.
Pivot if you need to. Like if you need to, like maybe I need to do something else.
Right. I love that. Okay. Well, thank you, sister. Okay. Loneliness, weariness. Okay. Abandonment. And abandonment typically gets a negative rap, fear of abandonment. I'm in pet rescue, so that has a really bad term. But my dad really looked at abandonment as a good thing, in that we need to focus on what we need and ought to think about and not what we like and want to think about. So for him, abandonment was hyper focus. So you can stay singularly focused on everything else. I'm sure you get, as an entrepreneur that likes all the new things, and boy, 100 new ideas come to us a day, and all these people are calling us to do these partnerships and let's do this. And it's like, and so how do you stay on point and focused?
So just like I have 7 areas of well-being, my business is built on 7 pillars of leadership. And those 7 pillars of leadership, pillar number 6 is the one that I use all the time, and it's evaluate your progress. And so sometimes people go, oh, well, in my company, we do an annual review, or some people say I do a quarterly review, or I do even weekly. And I say, I evaluate every single day, whether or not it's efficient or effective. Is this a task that's like, I'm just looking to get it checked off? Or is this a task that allows me to be a force for good on the planet? Is this something that's actually effective in moving me towards what it is that I want, what I'm called to do on the planet? Or is this the thing that's like, somebody told me that this needs to get done? What is it? And which bucket does it fall in? And with 24 hours a day, staying that hyper focused on what matters most means some things I've got to say no to, even if they seem like great ideas, because they still are distractions and pull me from what it is that I'm called to do.
Well, I love that too, because that's good for your team. Because working for somebody like us, I know when I work for my dad, it can be a little maddening because it's just like there's so much going on. And if you're a more linear thinker, you need a little bit more. Okay, bring it all down. So I love that you do, because you clearly outline your roles and responsibility, but I'm all about the results. Oh my gosh. Everybody tell me, well, you should be doing this and this will do this. And I'm like, but what are the results? Because we're supposed to be good stewards of our time and resources. So I love that. And you do that every day. You get, is it the end of the day? Do you?
Every single day, I look in the morning, I look in the afternoon, and I look in the evening. Where is it?
Listeners, how freeing would that be if you just decluttered, pruned, cut off the non-value added stuff? I'm telling you, whenever my soul feels awry or stressed or I'm spinning, it's because I have not put up, I love Henry Cloud's book, Boundaries. It's because I have let something weasel in or scope creep, and they're all good things. But I'm supposed to be focused on this and not that. So I really appreciate you talking about that. This is it's a daily struggle, you know?
Yes. I really appreciate you saying that it's something that using the term scope creep, because I did a board retreat for an organization, and they had 17 things that they wanted to accomplish for the end of the year. And I said, this is great. However, you've got to pick maybe 2. Pick 2 and they couldn't do it. By the end of the retreat, they said, we're just going to keep all 17. Yeah. And at the end of the year, ended up doing none.
Right.
And so, it's what you said is also that, you have this idea, and it's so easy to think that you can get more done, or it's so easy to let something creep.
Yes.
I think that this one is really important if you're going to make an impact on the planet.
Oh, absolutely. And I would say this is the one thing that people struggle with the most. Number one, getting the clarity as to what is that one great purpose. And then number 2, staying focused, because it takes time to work your purpose out. And so you're going to be, well, maybe I'm looking over here, I should be doing this or that. But, the leadership literature even says one thing at a time. And I know we like to think, well, if you're Elon Musk, you can probably think of one thing at a time. Prioritize it, because that's, and pick the big things and knock them out. So I really appreciate you bringing that up. And when I came back to run the business, they're like, well, what do you want to focus on? I'm like, all of it. I love all of it. I want to do it all. And they're like, oh, you're so young and it's naive. And I'm like, what? They were right. You really need it. Yeah. Hone it down. Yeah. All right. So loneliness, weariness, abandonment. And the last term my dad talked about was vision. And for him, vision was seeing what needs to be done, which most everybody can. Number two, doing it, which very few people do. The executors and the integrators, there's the pontificators and but he just said, look, if you're not able to execute or draw the right people, you can't really call it a vision. You can call it an idea or hope or,
Yep.
But that's no strategy for growing a business. How do you keep your vision going, getting honed, moving forward and cast?
So vision is one of my 3 elements of courageous leadership. I agree so much with your dad that this is how you don't have a vision, you live a vision. It's there's something that it's action oriented. It's not something you write down on a piece of paper. So having that courage to do that, I believe that the practical part of this, I'm going to bring in my law enforcement, is that you're a detective. That's how you get to live your vision, is you be a detective. And I ask questions: the who, the what, the where, the when, the how, the why of a situation, whatever it is that I want. And that allows me to say, so if this is my vision is to be somebody who makes everyone feel valued, appreciated, and loved when I'm around, and I'm moving towards creating a world where everyone wins, all of my actions have got to be taken in order for that vision. And so who is that I'm seeking to do that with? Where, when, how, why, for everything that comes my way on my desk, whether it's being here with you on this podcast, whether it's choosing to get up and go for a walk, whether it's whatever I put in my body, everything is about me becoming that vision, not me only speaking about it. It's truly the embodiment of it, because it's about who you are, not what you do.
I love it. A world where everyone wins. Oh, that's absolutely, you should
my
write
vision.
a book with that title. I love that. And you embody that. I can tell that. And that's difficult because I think a lot of people are like, because we're self-oriented, and, there's that element of, you're not here for yourself. You're here to bring out this other things or create for other people or, lead in other ways.
I find in today's world, I want to be a bridge builder and not a divider. And so just because you have an idea and it's very different than mine doesn't mean that you can't win and I can't win at the same time.
Right. Absolutely. A bridger, not a burner, a burn it. That was my latest book, Burn It or Bridge It. Do you want to burn or do you want to bridge it? We need bridgers. And you are that. Lisa, what else would you share with our listeners as you've coached all these people in leadership? What other pearls of wisdom would you share with them while we have their ears today?
I believe so much that the world right now is hurting for great leadership, and that you're here on the planet for a reason. The world needs you. The world needs your brilliance, and it needs all of you, not a part of you, not a segment of you, not a part that somebody told you is acceptable, but all of you. And if every single person actually did that and actually stepped up and fully allowed themselves to be seen and to do whatever they're called to do, that the world would be a very different place. It would be so purposeful, and it would be so much lighter. So that's my call to action: is the world needs you and your brilliance now more than ever. Go shine your light, go do whatever it is you're called to do to be a force for good on the planet.
Amen, sister. I love that, Lisa. I think you are my sister. Seriously.
I think so too.
Seriously. Oh my goodness. So much congruence here. All right, Lisa, how can people get a hold of you?
My website is upsidethinking.com, and you're going to put some links in there. So that's the best way to find me. And I have an annual event that is Upside Summit, which is my Design Your Destiny live event. Every January I host that. And so you'll got some information on the website about that, and my blueprint as well.
Excellent. And you were talking about working with coaches. If some of our listeners, do you train coaches, or do you work with leaders who need a coach? What's your area of focus?
I work with leaders, influencers, and world changers.
Okay.
People who understand they've got something big burning inside of them and they aren't sure how they're going to live it out, position themselves for it. Some people, it's internally in companies. They'll come to me and say, no, I want to start a business. And I'm like, well, you're actually called to be in this company and to be light. And for some people, it's for them to have businesses, or some people, it's to sell their business. So it's leaders, influencers, and world changers.
I love it. All right, well, for our listeners out there, you make sure we'll have all this on there, but you make sure and check out Lisa's website. Lisa, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Fueled my spirit. And I know our listeners out there, thank you for your transparency and thank you for the difference you're making in the world. You're offering so much and it's so needed. And listeners out there, don't waste any more time wandering in the desert. Hook up with somebody like Lisa who can really help you. I love that. The big burn. You got it. You got it. No more grousing. Get that big burn and turn it into a beautiful flame that lights the world. So thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Dr. Tracey. Appreciate being here. It's really an honor.
You're so welcome. And welcome back to Pennsylvania. I hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
All right, or at the summit. I would love that. I'm going to check that out.
Thank you.
Okay, Lisa. Well, to our guests out there, we couldn't do this without our tremendous tribe. So if you like what you heard, please be sure and hit the subscribe button. Do us the honor of a 5-star review wherever you hear our podcast listening. And also, thank you so much. Leave us a comment. We answer all our comments, and share this with somebody else that you think may need a little bit of uplifting or tremendousness in their life. Remember, folks, never stop paying the price of leadership. We're so thankful for you. There are many leaders out there in name only, but you're the real deal. Thanks so much.
Thank you for listening to Tremendous Leadership with Dr. Tracey Jones. Find out more about Dr. Jones at www.tremendousleadership.com. If you've been ignited by something you heard in this episode, let us know by leaving a review for Tremendous Leadership wherever you listen to podcasts, or by sending us a message through www.tremendousleadership.com.